I wouldn't cut back too much again, because that's the problem with vegetables. You know, like you need the vinegar and the salt to preserve them and to make sure that you don't end up with autism or something like that. I mean, years ago I used to can green beans, just can them, but then I did them in the pressure canner, because if you do them just with a regular canner, it's like 4 hours, and I'm thinking, what nutrition is left after 4 hours of boiling something? So things like that, I would tend to pick and choose too. For like green beans, I would freeze them. Even corn, like I just got away from canning vegetables, just canning vegetables as themselves. Pickling them, yes, but not canning them. It's better to freeze things like corn and beans and stuff like that, if you have the opportunity, of course. Yeah, that's sort of, you know, we can come back to that. No, basic canning, this is a canner for people that don't know, but you can use just any large pot. They usually come with these handy doodads that take usually 7 jars, 6 round, 1 in the middle. And so that when you get your 7 jars ready, you just put them all at once. But you can use an ordinary big pot, and my mother-in-law showed me this too. You can just put like a dish rag or something in the bottom and just put your jars in. You don't have to have a canner. The idea here is that the jars will separate when it's boiling vigorously, so that, you know, they don't bump together. But if you kind of space them out, or if you just have 3 little jars of jam to do, you don't want to fill up a great big canner. So that works. Anyway, so for canning, I always think that with the fruit, it's rather nice the way it starts with cherries, usually the first ones that you want to can, because all you have to do is wash them, pull off the stems, and stick them in the jar, right? Because I never pit them. That's for kidding. We have to have pits in there so the kids can take them off the pits. Anyway, so yeah, so you're just putting the cherries in, and then making sure that you have the right lids, of course. This is one of the tricky things. There are several different, there's the regular, there's the wide mouth, there's the jam, and that is a bit of a trick that you'll find out depending on what jars you've got. So you do have to make sure ahead of time that you've got the right jars, so you're not ready to can, and oh my gosh, those are not quite right. These are, you know, these are just a little bit smaller than this. So, and of course the rings. You usually, well, not all these, you buy them separately, but you can buy the lids and rings together once in a while. And I mean, people say that you have to use a new, or the companies say you have to use a new lid every time, but as long as there's no rust and no deformities and the whole ring is still there and it isn't like depressed a lot, you can actually reuse the lids the same as you can reuse these ones, because they have, so you just have to look at them. And when you do take, you know, when you've got something canned and you take it out to eat for supper, instead of taking the can opener and like wrenching on it and bending it, you can just take a kitchen knife and just put it right in there and just kind of tweak it a little bit, and it'll come up, and then you can really use your lid again if you want to, depending on what it is. Now, I mean, people would say, oh no, you must never do that. The whole thing is that as long as you know you've got a good seal, then there's no chance of any bacteria getting in there. And the way you can tell when you've panned, you can just tap them. Well, you can't do it here, but there's a definite different sound. If you just tap the top of all your jars, and you'll hear some of them sound more dense, some of them sound kind of hollow, and the ones that have it depressed. Some, you can also actually see how it's concave when it's canned successfully. And it's annoying, of course, when they don't, but then you can either redo it if you want to, or you can put it in the fridge and eat it, or freeze it, so it's not a dead loss. You don't throw it away or anything. It's just that. And also you can, this summer, or in September, we were up in Alberta visiting a family farm where there was a huge number of people, and they didn't do anything less than 2-liter jars. They had rows of them in their root cellar. And they had taken all of the rings off, and she said, oh, we always do that because it stops them from rusting, which is of course true if there's been any moisture underneath. As long as it's sealed, the next day you've got a good seal, you can take the ring off, so you don't have to have a ring for every jar that you can. And I mean, I do that all the time, I steal rings, because I don't have enough to run down and get some rings off something you really can. So it's another, you know. Now, as far as the syrup that people used to talk about for canning fruit, a long time ago I quit doing that when my friend said to me, oh no, just put the fruit in, put like a teaspoon of honey, or, you know, depending on how sweet you want it, pour boiling water over it, and that's your solution. And then you just, as usual, you have your lids and rings in the boiling water, put them on, put your 7 jars in, and in the meantime you're heating your water probably. But so these are already hot because you've poured boiling water over them. You've got your 7 jars in here with the lids on, and when you put the lid, and then you have it fairly tight and come back just a little bit, because the whole idea is that any air in there will bubble out. And another way to make sure that you don't have air is when you've got your fruit in, you can just like run a knife around and release the air bubbles up the sides. So you've got your 7 in there, and then you just, once carefully, and you just put them immediately right down in to the boiling water. They're already hot. You know, the problem is sometimes if you're putting something that's cool in.
Does the water have to cover the jars?
Pardon me? It should, yeah. It
should have it over top the jars.
Yeah, it should be just over top.
So you pour boiling water over top first to preheat, and you have less breakage then? When it goes
Well, no, that's just the way I don't do syrup. Like some people, you know, you look at, let's say, what do they say, a light syrup, a medium syrup, or heavy syrup, and there's all this sugar that's going in there. Well, for one thing, we don't grow sugar here. It's not local. And so, you know, and really just a teaspoon of honey. And actually, when the children were really small, I knew that babies shouldn't have honey up to about a year. I didn't even put any. I mean, this fruit is pretty sweet. And so, yeah, I just, those years I just can't the way it was, and seemed to be fine. Yeah. So, yeah, and then it's 20 minutes, I think they usually say, for liters, quarts. Yeah, it would be a bit longer if you're doing 2 liter size. And then you just, again, lift them all out, you know, have a cloth or something, and then these things are very handy too for when they're hot, to just pick them up, because you want them to cool. You separate them out and they'll cool, and you'll hear them pop. You'll hear the lid.
Would you tighten them up when you take them out?
You shouldn't really have to, and you know, unless it's seems to be really loose. It just should be snug, not like really
Doesn't have to
tight.
be compressed.
Because really, it's just holding the lid down. That's what you're just wanting, to hold the lid down.
You don't have to compress it, like tighten it like that.
No. In fact, I would tend not to. I would just take them out and not touch them. Because when you put it in, you're putting it, you know, fairly tight, but not like guys can really wrench it on. That's a bit too much. It's just snug. Yeah, you don't like sort of lose your. And I mean, the other thing, I'm sure, by doing it like really tight, that's probably when you totally dent the rubber lids, and then you can't use them. You can see that it's obviously worn down through, but if it's still in pretty good shape. And you can come and look at these afterwards too. I mean, this is the old-fashioned thing, and I've never used one like this with an actual glass top, but I have used where there's the rubber ring and then a glass top that goes down, and then the metal screw top. I haven't had as good success though. They don't seem to can as well as the more modern ones with the rubber right on there. But you know, again, it's more. I mean, these were designed to be used lots of times, right? So if you're really being economical and you really want to save money, if you can find these,
that was my question. Where do you find?
I don't know. I just have this one in the basement, and I think probably again you'd have to look in thrift stores or your grandparents' homes, or you know, people are cleaning out stuff.
And they work well?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I haven't actually used ones like this where it's clamped down, but I can't see why I wouldn't. It's just the whole thing of it being tight. But I have used the ones with the metal rings, but the glass here, and then the rubber ring. I've used those, and yeah.